Hi everyone, today my topic is reframed. And here's the agenda. First is my process of exploring my direction. Second is the two experiences I want to share. And third is finding my theme. Finally is my next step and the tool for my e-portfolio. So let's move for the first part, how I explore my directions. My first exploration used divergent thinking, and the initial three classes are three sparks to inspire me to think about so many paths and directions. And then I classify those directions into three categories and evaluate each of them. For the first part, self-image, I think is too superficial for an e-portfolio. Social activity, too broad, more like the side skills. Challenges, too general, lack of specific detail. So finally, I choose my direction, which is my major development psychology. The reason why I choose it because I have been doing every day for the past 2 years, and I study, think about it, see in the people around me. I think it's not the direction I'm searching for, it's the direction I'm already in. And next, I wrote down the Gilo and Jealous requirement and list all meaningful moments from my past 2 years through the brainstorming and match each moment to the criteria. Finally, want to share two experiences. Both of them meet the Jealous and Jealous requirement. First one meet the creative thinking, problem solving, and awareness. Second one meet the critical thinking, problem solving, and the knowledge. More importantly, they truly reshape my view of psychology. So let's go to the first experience, the psychology support room. During my summer exchange program to Canada, I visited a regional hospital specializing in respiratory and cardiovascular disease. And according to this picture, we can see that in the 5th floor mental health part, there is a psychology support room. And this is the picture I take on-site photograph in Canada, and because it's so pity, I do not take the picture of the whole room. So I use AI to reconstruct a panorama. We can see that inside there are color pencils, drawing paper, and some jigsaw puzzle, and some tackle objects. Staff can casually chatting with patients, and they told me that there are no appointment, no diagnosis, and no treatment goals. Patients can come freely when feeling down or overwhelmed by negative emotions. This is the room I had never seen before. So I recall my hospitalization experience in Beijing. After appendix surgery, I walked into a ward with no one around, and the only thing I could do is to scroll in my phone and enduring the post-surgery pain and the anxiety. Compared to Canada, what I saw in their hospital, I think if only I had had a place like that soothing me. So one idea came to my mind, why can't we have this in Hong Kong women and hospitals? So I shared this idea with my peers, but their queries cooled me down. Some of them said that Hong Kong hospitals don't even have enough wards. How could they spare an entire room for this? Some of them said that mental hospitals are already overwhelmed. They don't have the capacity to meet the psychological need. So my enthusiasm cooled, reality felt heavy. But I didn't give up. For the first difficulties, if we do not have enough space, why not start from a small corner? We can place some small table with drawing paper near the wall, like the first pair of pictures demonstrate. And we can also place some bulletin board on the wall for pinning up some drawings, like the second pair of pictures showing. For the second difficulties, why not find some volunteers to compensate for the lack of staff? For example, our psychology students are really eager to help. So I think those small steps can lead to my big version. And more importantly, this room reshaped my view of psychology. Before, I think psychology are mainly about counseling, assessing, and intervening, working only with patients with clear mental disorders. But after that, I think psychology also has significant value to those who are purely physically ill. It can support the general patient, even ordinary people. So that psychology support room didn't just change how I see hospitals, it changed how I see psychology itself. From this, I believe that whether I work in a hospital or community in the future, I definitely can use psychology to do things to improve whole person's well-being. Let's move for the second experience, statistics in psychology. And before I go into university, I posed a moment that I was going to study psychology. Both of my friends and I think psychology is really mystery and like mind reading. And we thought psychologists could just look at someone and then know what they are thinking about. Also, during my first year study, one question always confused me. Why do I study something I cannot see? Because at that time, I learned psychology and mainly focused on human thought, emotions, and motivations, but I cannot put a thought under a microscope. How can I study it use scientific strategy? But after my 2 statistics classes, I realized statistics method can make psychology visible. We cannot see happiness, but we can measure people's happiness. We cannot see stress, but we can measure heart rate. Statistics analyze the data and tell us, is this real or just random? Here, I want to give a really simple example about how statistics using psychology. If you want to investigate, can music make people feel happy? First is to ask participants to rate their happiness, and then give them music, and to ask them to rate their happiness again. Finally, we need to use statistic tools to compare those 2 sets of data, like the graph showing. So according to this process, statistics turns I feel they are happy into they actually happy. During the internship in a program in a bank, I realized how psychology and statistics work together in the real-world setting. During my internship at Meet the Problem, does a new app interface attract users more than the old one? To solve that problem, first thing is to make attractive visible by using the mobile banking collect some behaviors data. And then statistics need to take its role. First, to measure users' behavior before and after the new interface, and then to compare those 2 sets of data. If we find any statistically significant increase, we can confidently say that people think the new interface is more attractive. And next, psychology need to analyze and explain what attracted users. Was it the color, the button size? Why those attractive? After that experience, I realized statistics can tell people that whether there have some change. Psychology can tell us why those changes happen. So by combining these 2 subjects together, we can use scientific data to understand the human mind. So after that 2 experiences come to my mind, the first step for me is to elaborate each of them and finding my theme. This part I use convergent thinking to find some similarities between the 2 experiences. The first one widened my view of who psychology serves. At the beginning, I think psychology can only serve for mental disorders, but after that, I think it can benefit for everyone's well-being. Second experience deepened my understanding of how psychology becomes visible. Initially, I think it's just subjective guesswork, but after that, I think it's an empirical and evidence-based subject. So 2 experiences point to the same thing, which is the reframed. This means that both of them reframe my cognition towards psychology. So finally, it's my next step and tool for my e-portfolio. So I'm already making some plans to put those knowledge and skills I learned in a previous experience into practice in future. I learned psychology can serve everyone, so for my final year project designing this semester, I choose to study anxiety in the general populations. I learned statistics can help psychology become science, and also I acquire lots of statistic tools. So in this summer, I will intern at HealthWatch UK, and the major job for me is to collect feedback from patients in hospitals, turn it into data, and use statistics to analyze. And finally, to write some report to provide the evidence-based recommendation to the UK government to improve their hospital service. So finally, I want to use Sway to create my e-portfolio because of the 2 reasons. First, I'm really familiar with it and I'm already using it to create lots of work, like the picture demonstrate. And second, I think the layout is really clean and visual. So by using this way, I believe I can tell my story the way I want. So that's the end of my presentation. Thanks for listening. Here's a reference. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. And besides just visualizing psychology data, what would you say is the most valuable skill or mindset you gain from studying statistics?
Thank you for your questions. I think by studying statistics, the most important thing it gives me is how to use some objective things to study as subjective things. Yeah, because psychology is somehow subjective because we do not know what others thinking about, and we also don't know what their mental process. So if I do not acquire statistic tool, the only thing I can do is to guess what people are thinking about. So statistics give me a really valuable tool to make those subjective things objective. Yeah.
Okay, I think your presentation is really good, and I really like the part that you compare the the support room in Canada and Beijing hospital. So my question is, if you could go back to that hospital in Beijing, and not as a patient but as a designer, could you add one small thing that you would like to add to make this space more like feel not such lonely?
Thank you for your questions. If I can come back to the hospital in Beijing, I think the one thing I want to add is the jigsaw puzzle, because during my hospitalization experience, I'm scoring my phone all the time, so my eye is hurt. So I think if I can add a jigsaw puzzle, I can temporarily escape from my phones. And second, I think the jigsaw puzzle is a really mind and hand cooperate game. So it's one of the most effective strategy for me to escape from the anxiety and the post-surgery pain. Yeah, and just switch off.
When I'm anxious and worrying, I find playing chess with my friends really help. Do you think it's a good method to apply to psychology to play chess?
Playing chess
Yeah,
to unwind or to relax.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good strategy, but it also depends on individual. Because for me, I'm not good at playing chess, so
Okay.
if I playing chess to unwind, maybe it will have some side effect because I always fail. So
Okay.
maybe I will become more anxiety. But for someone, for example, for your, I think it's a really effective strategy for you to switch your attention from your anxiety.
Okay, thank you.